Today, I'm gonna be selecting the top 10 greatest league matches from the Pokemon anime. And pretty much everything is gonna be taken into account for these rankings. The story, the visuals, the animation, the stakes, all of it shall be accounted for. But before we begin, be sure to drop a big like on this video and also make sure you enter my 300k giveaway that I currently have going on. To enter, just check out my last video. Okay, with that being said, before we get into the top 10, I first want to give a couple battles a quick honorable mention. First is Ash vs Mandy, which was Ash's first ever league match, and it also included that epic Krabby sweep. Next is Iris vs Cynthia, as it was easily the best first round match of the Masters 8 tournament and just visually stunning. Then we have Ash vs Stefan, as it was really the only good battle in the entire Unova League. And the last honorable mention goes to Ash vs Guzma, as it was a visually beautiful and thematically powerful match that had lasting effects on Guzma. Alright then, with all of those out of the way, let's get started at number 10. In 10th place is Ash vs Harrison in the Johto League. This battle is without a doubt one of the most underrated in all of Pokemon. Ash vs Harrison took place in the quarterfinals of the Silver Conference, but it kind of gets overlooked due to the fact that this fight followed up on the epic Ash vs Gary battle from the previous round. And because of that, there really isn't as much narrative weight here as there was in the previous battle. But as a character, there wasn't much to Harrison, and he kinda just popped up out of nowhere right before the start of the league. However, he did hail from the Hoenn region, and as such, he used a decent amount of Hoenn Pokemon. So both Ash and viewers alike were unsure of what to expect. And this battle delivered in just about every single way possible. The beginning fight was actually quite solid, and Pikachu actually falls first on Ash's team to Harrison's Sneasel. But luckily, Totodile is there to pick up some slack. We also got a really nice showing from Snorlax during this battle as well. But this match climaxes with a 1v1 between Ash's Charizard and Harrison's Blaziken. Now if you ask me, this was the perfect way to market the brand new upcoming Hoenn region, by showing the new fire starter go blow for blow with what was definitely Ash's strongest Pokemon at the time. But then, after one of the most epic beam struggles in anime history, Blaziken was the last mon standing, and Ash's run at the Johto League had come to an end. While this moment was kind of disappointing, it was pretty evident that Harrison was the better and much more experienced trainer. Plus, he also had a bunch of Hoenn Pokemon that Ash had no idea how to deal with. Overall, this league match is very solid, and the only real critique I have with it is that Ash didn't necessarily bring his most powerful team. But other than that, this was great, and a very underrated league battle. Next up is Ash vs Richie in the Kanto League. To many, this battle is amongst the worst in the entire series. It was an absolutely terrible way to end Ash's original run in Kanto, and he went out like a total joke. And, well, yes, I do agree with all of this. In retrospect, this was one of the most important and most influential battles in Ash's entire story. As you obviously know, Ash got utterly embarrassed in this match. He and his Pokemon were exhausted from an earlier scuffle with Team Rocket. And of course, Charizard did not end up obeying Ash, which ultimately cost Ash the battle and ended his first ever league run. The battle itself was also very underwhelming too. It only lasted like 5 minutes total, and most of the KOs were a bit weird. But as I said earlier, while this battle was embarrassing, it was still very important to the development of Ash. For most of Ash's run in Kanto, he kinda just got lucky. I mean, just look at the first round match against Mandy. And that's not even to mention that he didn't even really win most of his gym badges. But here against Richie, Ash's luck ran out. His skill as a trainer just wasn't up to par with the rest of the top 16. But while in the moment Ash was heartbroken, this loss kind of worked as a turning point for him. After this loss, he got a real look as to what it takes to be an elite trainer. And so by the time he arrived in Johto, he was ready to do things the right way. In 8th place is Ash vs Sawyer in the Kalos League. Now this was one of the most epic and most riveting conclusions to what is easily Ash's most underrated rivalry ever. While unfortunately, most of the Kalos League kinda just got glossed over, it did at the very least allow for this semifinal matchup to take its time and be a full 6v6 battle. This battle here starts off fast and doesn't ever really slow down. Sawyer is a trainer that puts a lot of stock into strategy, and Ash works as a perfect foil to this as his battling style is notoriously unpredictable. Their ideologies clash many times throughout this semifinal matchup. One of my favorite moments is when Pikachu launches a piece of wood into Aegislash's shield to prevent it from using King's Shield. This then left it open for Pikachu to score one awesome knockout. Throughout the battle, we were also gifted with some of the most beautiful visuals and animation the series has ever seen. Many believe the X and Y series to be the best looking in the entire franchise, and the animators and artists really pulled out all of the stops here for the Kalos League. This match ultimately came to a head in the final 1v1 between Ash's Greninja and Sawyer's Sceptile. These two mons had created their own rivalry throughout X and Y, and it all came to an epic conclusion here with the two in their most powerful forms. Seeing these two starters go blow for blow was thrilling, and it had me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. The animation went crazy for this fight, and I always loved this aerial ace combo that Greninja pieced up Sceptile with. Then, Ash and Greninja were finally able to overcome their rivals as the two launched one massive water shuriken to conclude this epic battle. And with that, Ash had defeated his rival and moved on to the finals of the Kalos League. Overall, this semifinal battle was intense, genius, and looked gorgeous. And to this very day, it remains one of my all-time favorites. Next up is Ash vs Cynthia in the Masters 8 tournament. Now here's a battle that was well over a decade in the making. As we all know, Cynthia is what is probably the most powerful trainer in the entire Pokemon multiverse. And so when we found out that Ash was gonna have to battle her in the semifinals, a lot of us were kinda just expecting him to lose. As the battle starts, Cynthia quickly gains control by taking down both Dragonite and Gengar thanks to her tricky Spiritomb. Luckily though, it seems like Pikachu will be able to make up some serious ground until...
Pikachu! It's Destiny Bond!
Whoa! Spiritomb takes Pikachu out of the fight with Destiny Bond. What an awesome moment and an epic display of Cynthia's power and brains. This was such an awesome way to end the first part of this three-part matchup, and it really made up for the underwhelming first round of the tournament. With Pikachu out of the match, it meant that mons like Sirfetch'd and Dracovish were really gonna have to pick up some slack. And boy did they. Dracovish did his thing and went all out. And meanwhile, Sirfetch'd went crazy this battle. It KO'd Milotic, cleaned up the Stealth Rocks, and almost KO'd Garchomp all by itself. And this all set the table for Lucario to come in as Ash's last hope. Lucario had to square off with Cynthia's two strongest mons, including a Dynamax Togekiss. But thanks to some help from Mega Evolution and from Greninja, he overcame the odds and helped Ash defeat Cynthia. Lucario really went berserk here, and that final slugfest with Garchomp was just brutal. But in the end, Lucario was the last mon standing, and Ash had claimed a major victory. In 6th place is Ash vs Gary in the Johto League. This battle worked as the perfect conclusion to Ash's original and most iconic rivalry. It also did a great job of wrapping up the original series. Gary was the rival that was always a step ahead of Ash. But here in the Johto League, Ash finally had the chance to prove just how far he had come. For this battle, Ash actually sidelined Pikachu and instead focused on a team of bulky, hard hitters. Gary quickly gains the advantage though, as his Nidoking destroys Ash's Tauros. But of course, Snorlax joins the battle to even things back up for Ash. Then we get what is likely Heracross's best moment ever, as it tanks a point-blank Fire Blast and then knocks out Magmar. After this, it seemed like Ash was poised to take control of this battle. That is, until Gary sends out his Blastoise, and it mows down half of Ash's team. With only one Pokemon left, Ash finds himself at a huge disadvantage. But luckily, that one Mon is Charizard. And this was his opportunity to show off just how strong he had become since training at the Valley. His speed caught both Gary and Scizor off guard, and it bodied that bug. Then Charizard was also able to take down Golem too, leaving it down to a 1v1. Charizard vs Blastoise. Red versus blue. What an awesome way to end this league match. From a typing perspective, Ash was obviously at a huge disadvantage, but he used his signature unpredictability here to even the odds. Then, once Charizard gets a hold of Blastoise, he puts everything he's got into his iconic finishing Seismic Toss attack. Then, after the dust settles, Charizard was the last Mon standing. Ash had finally got the better of Gary. This truly was a long time coming. And with this win, Ash advanced to the top 8 of the Johto League. This battle perfectly displayed Ash's growth throughout the original series. If this match with Gary had taken place in the Kanto League, there's no doubt that Gary would have smacked Ash. But thanks to the humbling he took while in Kanto, and the growth he was able to go through in Johto, this victory feels earned and so satisfying, and successfully puts a bow on the original series. In 5th place is Ash vs Alon in the Kalos League. Now this battle certainly is the most controversial on this entire list, and probably in the entirety of anime as well. I mean, we all know why. And while the conclusion of this battle is definitely a hot topic, the entire match itself was incredible, thrilling, and remains one of the best among the entire series. Of course, going into this battle, it was Ash's first ever league championship, and he got here thanks in large part to his incredible team. So as for the battle itself, it was just awesome, and delivered in just about every way imaginable. While Noivern still sucked, Hawlucha avenged his brother by taking down Alon's pesky Weavile. Meanwhile, Alon was even able to make Unpheasant look cool, as it went mano-a-mano with Ash's Talonflame in what was one of the best sky battles the series had ever seen. Pikachu was honestly the MVP of this match for Ash, as he took down 2 pseudo-legendaries including Tyranitar and Metagross. And then of course we have Ash's Greninja, who literally comes out of the Pokeball aura farming. And he then makes quick work of Bisharp. And then, here we go. Greninja vs Charizard will easily go down as one of the best 1v1s in the entire anime. Every moment is awesome. The blow-for-blow close combat, Greninja slicing through a flamethrower, and the Water Shuriken shield are all just so sick. This final battle then concludes with both Mons firing off their most powerful attack, and then... Yeah, this one hurts. Now looking back, I honestly don't care that much that Ash lost this fight, as everything kind of ended up alright. But yeah, I'll admit I was very upset upon my first viewing of this battle. But there was no denying that the battle itself was enthralling, visually stunning, and also just so rewatchable. Seeing as this was the climax for the entire series, it was no surprise that the artists and animators went all out for this battle. From start to finish, everything just looks so beautiful. And even the cinematography helps add to the scale of this fight and brings it even more to life. All I really ask is that this battle could have maybe been stretched out to a 3-parter rather than just a 2-parter. And while this league match is obviously very controversial, there is no denying that it is objectively amongst the best of the best. Next, we have Ash vs Gladion in the Alola League. I find it fitting that we have this league match coming in right after the Kalos League final. In short, this battle is historic. A victory that was 20 years in the making. And while I'm sure we all remember the iconic Lycanroc finale, The entirety of this battle was just as incredible. I mean, it literally starts off with a legendary v mythical matchup. And I honestly thought that Melmetal was gonna do some serious damage, seeing as it got a lot of buildup prior to this fight. But Silvally makes quick work of it. Then once again, Pikachu carries hard in this finals matchup. So this all leads up to the epic Lycanroc v Lycanroc finale. Two Pokemon that have been rivals since the beginning of Sun and Moon. And for a while, it seemed like Ash was once again going to fail in the league finals. But then, leave it to Ash to shatter all rules of Pokemon laws and physics.
We're not done! Now use counter against counter!
No way!
And with that, history was made. Ash Ketchum had finally done it. After 6 previous failures, he was finally a league champion. This battle will forever live on, not just as Pokemon history, but anime and pop culture history as a whole. The only real fault I have with this match is that this league final was only a 3v3, and I guess that can kind of come across as a little underwhelming. But this did at the very least allow every single fight its deserved time to breathe and develop. In third place, we have Ash vs Paul in the Sinnoh League. To many, they believe that Paul is Ash's greatest rival ever. And this is totally understandable, as he is the perfect foil to Ash because he represents the opposite of everything that Ash does or believes in. While Ash is kind, caring, and improvisational, Paul is cruel, mean, and calculated. To this very day, many Pokemon fans believe that this is the greatest battle in the entirety of the series. And in a lot of ways, this was a bold and transformative battle the likes of the series had never seen before up to that point. It was the first ever 3-part battle. And of course, there was the Infernape element. And that's not to mention that this battle was coming off the heels of the 2's match at Lake Acuity. But as for the battle here in the Sinnoh League, it was long, breathtaking, and thrilling. Of course, Paul's team was wicked strong, especially that Drapion. Meanwhile, Ash's Sinnoh team had varying success throughout. Torterra and Staraptor were worthless, but Weasel stood on business, Pikachu did his thing, and Infernape had what was arguably the greatest moment in Pokemon history.
All right, Infernape, time to show Paul just how strong you are!
Rewatching this moment still gives me chills to this very day. And with that, Ash had won, bested his most brutal rival ever, and moved on to the semifinals. This moment was huge for Anti-Poke history, and everything about it was so masterfully done. This battle is and will forever be one of the most iconic across the entire series. In second place is Ash vs Kukui in the Alola League. This battle coming in so high might surprise a lot of you, but I always just adored it. Everything about it is just so peak. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous from start to finish. Every battle delivers and is memorable in one way or the other. And the relationship dynamic between Kukui and Ash only make this fight that much better. You can tell they are both giving it their all, but they're also having a lot of fun too. And as such, we are delivered with what is one of the best and most fun battles in the entire Pokemon series. As I said earlier, every single matchup delivers and sticks out in one way or the other. The overarching battle between Torracat and Incineroar was awesome and definitely one of the highlights of this fight. But while he was still in the battle, Kukui's Incineroar still did some serious work. Unfortunately, Lycanroc kind of gets the short end of the stick, but he was the hero of the previous battle, so it's not all that bad. Luckily though, Rowlet gets to display his godly power here and avenge his fallen doggo brethren. And it was even sweet to see Melmetal utterly dominate Empoleon too. Then, we finally got to see Naganadel in action, and man, it was awesome. And of course, this battle comes to an epic conclusion with Pikachu versus Tapu Koko. During the clash, we get a beautiful moment of reflection of Ash's and Pikachu's time while in Alola. Wow, from start to finish, this battle was just epic. And with it, Ash had bested his father figure, Pikachu had added another legendary to its KO list, and the two had successfully defended their title of Alola champion. I literally cannot recommend this battle enough. Every single fight is just perfect and gets its due time to develop, and every Mon gets a moment to shine. However, due to the stakes of this matchup, it falls just flat of earning the top spot. But coming in first is Ash vs Leon in the Masters 8 tournament. Yes, of course the ultimate and final league match of Ash's simply had to come in first. This battle was just flawless. It had strategy, twists, turns, every single battling gimmick, and some insane animation. It was the ultimate conclusion to Ash and Pikachu's 25-year journey, and it absolutely knocked it out of the park. Now obviously, going into it, the stakes were as high as they could possibly be. This was a battle for the title of World Champion and to figure out who the very best was. But as for the battle itself, from start to finish, it hits the ground running and never looks back. Right away, Ash Gigantamaxes Gengar, and it squares off in an epic battle with Leon's skillful Inteleon. It was actually a bit surprising to see Ash start off in the lead, but then Mr. Rhyme of all Pokemon comes out to even the score, and this thing actually turned out to be a huge nuisance on Ash's team. He really did significant damage to a lot of Ash's team. But luckily, Ash Mega Evolves his Lucario, and I'm sure he'll be able to take down most of Leon's team, right? Yeah, no. But with Lucario down, all of Ash's Pokemon needed to ball out, and boy did they. Dragonite proved itself to be the superior pseudo and earned a much-deserved KO on Dragapult in epic fashion. But then, Rillaboom continued on his warpath and took down both Dragonite and Sirfetch'd. However, Dracovish was finally able to knock out the ape before falling to Cinderace. And with that, Ash was down to one single Pokemon, just his day one homie, Pikachu. We then got Pikachu vs Charizard, who clashed in their powered-up forms with Pikachu's Z move and Charizard's G-Max move basically ripping a tear in reality. But with Eternatus releasing Dynamax energy, Pikachu and Ash found a second wind as they then squared off in a G-Max battle with Cinderace. This battle here was actually kinda quick, but it wasn't what we were really interested in. Finally, it once again came down to Pikachu vs Charizard, the two most iconic Pokemon of all time, mirroring Ash's first ever league loss. And it was all going to decide who would be the world monarch. The animation for this final part of the battle was easily the best in the entire series. The two Mons continuously go blow for blow, and then Charizard lands that Fire Blast attack. Then with the companion and other Pokemon cameos, the nostalgia kicked in. Pikachu is able to get back up, and then the real battle begins. Ash turns his hat, and he and Pikachu put everything they've got into one last attack. Man, this was just so epic. And when the dust settles, Pikachu is the last Mon standing. After decades of failures, countless adventures, thousands of battles, hundreds of friends and companions gained along the way, and 25 years of their journey, Ash and Pikachu had finally done it. The two had won and become the very best like no one ever was. What an absolutely perfect battle and perfect final league match for Ash. The battle is easily the best of the best in the entire series and actually among the best in all of anime. There really was no competition here for the top spot, as Leon vs Ash in the Masters 8 finale was just perfect. Well guys, that's that. Those are the top 10 league battles from the Pokemon anime. Be sure to drop a big like on this video if you enjoyed. Also, be sure to enter my giveaway as it'll probably be ending pretty soon. Finally, Be sure to have an awesome day and tell someone you care about how much you appreciate them. Thanks, guys.